why should we come together? Often these questions, but we have learned our lessons in last many decades. We have seen how across the globe people are trying to find new partners or common causes. What are the common interests? In this, not in the sense directly it is intersecting our lives, but politically how we should see common causes. People in Manipur, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh might not have been associated with the Adivasis in Bastar or Jharkhand, but it's political wisdom that should guide us to find common causes with the people across the world. It's not just the relationship within the country, but going beyond the boundaries, whether it is the issues of indigenous people in Australia or in Canada or the people living in Amazon forests. So everywhere people are under attack, or whether it is the farmers, whether it's women's movement, we have to find common causes. So while that is politically an important goal to come together and to stand by each other's side. I remember Khalil Gibran's poem. He wrote it in the context of marriage, of course, but I thought this would be appropriate also to talk about when different social groups come together and for a common journey. So while we, so Gibran says in this poem that fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another bread, but eat not from the same loaf. The oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. While we come together, we'll not, try to dominate the other. We'll not try to shrink their space. Rather, give each other the space, each other the identity. You have to respect each other's identity, and still work together for a common goal of emancipation from all kinds of oppression and marginalization. Coming to the question of the Adivasis and the Dalits, but in the context of Adivasis, recently we had this Oscar Award ceremony that is over just a few days back. India got 2 Oscar awards this time. You must be aware of that. Natu Natu for that song, and The Elephant Whisperers. And the credit goes to. Okay, we'll not talk about it. So, but yeah, the point is this Oscar award presents 2 different contrasting pictures. The Elephant Whisperers case portrays a humanizing portrayal. It's a humanizing portrayal of the relationship between animals and human beings, and this is again to Adivasi people who are in charge of orphan elephant. And of course, this is an issue that is of global importance, the ecological disaster that is happening, the environmental degradation that is happening. And in that context, we find orphans, elephants also becoming orphans. It's a beautiful portrayal of the Adivasi couple. I mean, these 2 marry later, of course. They take care of the baby elephant. And it depicts another beautiful documentary, All That Breathes. That's again from India. So when it got the award, it depicts that. You must be knowing, I don't know how many of you know that, but it's a movie about 2 brothers from Delhi. They started animal care clinic. So Muhammad and Nadeem Shehjaan. I mean, again, it's disturbing. Our caste ideology has entered into the domain of the animals as well. Why these two brothers started this animal care clinic is because they went to, this when they were young teenagers. So one of the brothers found a wounded kite, a kite, and he took it to an animal hospital run by Jains. And the Jain, that hospital refused to admit the kite by saying that the kite is a meat-eating animal. And they don't have space in Jain hospitals. So yesterday we were talking about food and culture, which is not related to human beings. Now we have extended it to animals as well. And thereby, these two brothers decided to set up their own animal shelters, animal care hospitals. But so the point I was talking about is this is one side of the portrayal of the true elephant whisperers, the humanizing aspect of a tribal life. Ketiki Gonzalez won that award. The other side is Natu Natu, which is part of, that movie. Have you watched that movie, RRR? Huh? But that RRR is dehumanizing the Adivasis. The movie it got Oscar for music, that's a different thing. Song. But the movie is a dehumanizing portrayal of the Adivasis, whereby it is trying to treat the Adivasis as uncivilized, and where the Savarna hero, the other hero, there are two heroes, Alluri Sitaram Raju, and the other is no, that character is yes. And that name Komara, right? So it's based on two historical characters. Though Rajamouli says this is a fictional character, this is a fiction, but it's based on two historical characters. So Komaram, and who was the Adivasi leader, Gond Adivasi leader, who was fighting against the Nizam for Adivasi rights. This was in 1928 to 1940 when he was killed. The other is Alluri Sitaram Raju, was a upper caste Kshatriya leader leading Adivasi rebellion against the British, 1922 and 224. So this 22-24 and Komaram is 28-40. So Rajamouli brings them together, fictional. That is fiction. They are meeting together and trying to rescue a missing Adivasi girl. But the problem is the way Rajamouli has portrayed the Gonds. Gonds are seen as uncivilized, uneducated, and that is being reflected through the Komaram's character, played by N.T. Ramarao Jr., of course. So he's like in the last scene when Alluri Sitaram Raju asks him, this Komaram, that you have given me everything and you have helped me in achieving the mission. What can I do for you? So then, in that movie, Komaram, the Gond leader, says, give me an education, brother. And then what this Alluri Sitaram Raju does is that he pricks his finger with the tip of an arrow, and with that blood writes Jal, Jangal and Jameen on a white flag. So Jal, Jangal and Jameen is a slogan that was associated with Komaram. He started that. But in the movie, it's portrayed as if this Savarna hero is giving this mantra to the Adivasi to fight. And again, that is written in Devanagari script. You understand the politics. You are writing something in Devanagari script, writing something that is already theirs. But it's portrayed as if Komaram Raju didn't know how to read and write. He's an non-literate person. He has to be civilized by Alluri Sitaram Raju. Whereas factually, an anthropologist, Christoph Hammendorf, another Christoph is here with her, but the scholar, anthropologist, he has described how Komaram was not a non-literate person. He was an educated person. He could read and write. He wrote memorandum to several memoranda to the Nizam against Adivasi, occupation of Adivasi lands and forests, etc. So Rajamouli is distorting the historical facts to portray the Adivasis as poor, non-literate, but noble savage. Of course, here it's portrayed as a savage, but a noble savage. But Rajamouli is a serial offender. In the previous movie, Bahubali, also he has similarly portrayed the Adivasis, Kalakiyas, as pure savages, not noble savages, pure savages, the main antagonistic character in that movie. So this is how the movies portray, or in our popular literature, whether it is epic stories, etc., they are portrayed as savage people, non-literate people. At the most, they will be used to save the, help the Savarna warriors. For example, Rama, like Hanuman, etc., will be used as servants of these Savarna warriors, heroes, kings, etc. So this whole issue of Adivasi identity, their education, their whole tradition, knowledge system, etc., are erased, neglected, or portrayed as if they don't have any intellectual, scientific, or artistic traditions. More of this, both of the speakers will be speaking about, especially Krish will talk about it, and Rahul, of course, will be talking about the other, important aspects of our society, the caste, and how it plays a role in our everyday lives. So I'll stop here and invite the speakers to take the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Rahul Sonpimple, sir, to enlighten us with his words.
So yeah, good afternoon everyone, and I'm really humble, glad and honored with this invitation, and I thank AML team here. So I don't know, so nowadays when I go for academic talk, I'm myself little in dilemma, because when I was student leader in JNU, and when I entered in JNU, there is this clan of old Marxists who would say, if more people clap on your speech, that means you're someone, a shallow, popular kind of leader. I used to always think what to do now when I interact with people. Should I speak something where people will not clap, or they will clap? Because so this dilemma goes. So I don't know now. I have given this dilemma to you also, whether you should clap for something or you should not. But anyways, this is a different thing. But yes, what actually the way Birsa has begun. This is something very interesting and quite close. The way how I'm looking past to this very concept of content. I don't know, many of us, what we perceive in everyday life or what we see, I believe there is this lot of unsaid violence which goes on in everyday life. So for instance, if you are a student in school, we have seen in school, whenever we are late, teacher calls us and he or she will say something. Earlier they used to punish, with they used to beat literally. So now the thing is different. So that was a very kind of the tangible form of violence. But just imagine that every day you are coming late, and every day your teacher is saying something to you, insulting you, humiliating you, whatever word you want to use. And suddenly he or she stopped doing that. You are still coming late. One day you will think, okay, I somehow managed to escape. Second day you will think that okay, he or she did not notice. But what if you realize the moment that he notices or your teacher notices you but doesn't say anything? I guess that very point, this internal, you will different kind of I must say, you're very close to understanding the experience of violence. Because when everything is normal around you, what is normal is basically punishing you. And when it doesn't happen, then you move towards the same of what is happening. No problem. And then this is some kind of different kind of violence that you realize. What basically I want to try to, because since this is AML, I always think about this. I believe these are a sub-state kind of institution that these bigger institutions has given. So to basically, something normal has to go there, right? If something normal has to go there, there is something in the dark, in the back has to happen. So like most of the this AML or events like which belongs to nomadic tribe community, Adivasi community, Dalit community, or other sexual minorities, all of this, those to whom we consider the historical marginalization. I think I have a different stand on like how you understand the question of gender, but as far as the very tangible everyday realities like caste and tribe in India. So you see how in the modern institutions, these events, for me, these events always play somewhere to maintain the normal. This is not somewhere, whereas we may believe that this is to break the normal or the normalcy, what we consider normal. But I believe this is something now has become the part of institution where it has to happen to something as normal. So nowadays it happens. Oh, there is one panel transgender, there is one gay, there is one Dalit, there is one Adivasi, and then there are 2-3 upper caste. Panel is now looks very beautiful, like a garden, and after top, then the reality is same. So this is something. But when you go out, or when you see the world, when you see the the corporate economy, or when you see the larger institutions, or the way society functions, or the political institution functions, you see, these are some kind of surplus which are there. So why I'm saying this, it has something to do with these institutions where I want student like who comes from marginalized section. While we have to celebrate it, like Dalits or Adivasis or any other marginalized communities and gender, they should not simply be always with this, saying we are marginalized so we cannot celebrate. No, it's not like that. Although media and the academicians have done this. Whenever when I was a student leader in JNU, I have given several these news bite in protest and all of that. So the media person always would come and say, okay, tell me, about this Dalit pain, Dalit experience. Maybe hasta ho, khelta ho, khata ho, pita ho. I am a normal human being. We are not always on the street fighting against state and the society, not like that. We are also normal. So when I am saying this, I am giving you one thought of the institution. While we are part of this institution, or not this institution, any other institution, I guess these subset realities are basically creating more normal than hampering the normality. So what you said, so now you have this irritating nonsensical song, Natu Natu, I hate this song, a very bad composed song. It's better I'm not just because it's been by this Rajamouli and this nonsensical director, but because the sound irritating is that whenever someone my neighbor plays, I'm like, it's very irritating. So anyways, but what happens? These movies so now you have a Natu Natu, or this for white people. They have, they know give Oscar, they know this, how the media or how the cultural or this entire film industry work. They have the very concept of desired body, okay? They know you say whatever, black and this, what is that, Black Panther, that will come once and while. White hero dikha diye. This, what is that producer, that big, this thing, American, this, all of these series comes in that, this movie series. Marvel. So Marvel has most of these heroes, white. So black to be dekha do. Now you cannot say anything. Now you say a black hero bhi and the black hero bhi dikhaya. So the black hero for Marvel is basically creating the normal to in a society, in present society. Similarly here, to have something big, to have this story, to consume this very story of Rajamouli of this Natu Natu, you need to have this, this so-called dark cinema there. If that is not there, then this becomes kind of abnormal. So this elephant story or the story of an Islam poor people is very important. So now this new political correctness is Khatris and Pathans also have learned in Bollywood. What do? Earlier they used to give this award to heroes or heroines. Earlier they used to only give one award, best hero. Then they started best actor. Then they started best actress also. So they are very late, very primitive in their nature. So now then what they do, they give the different category. What is that category? Oh, you give this mainstream hero and then they give something, what do they call? Supporting actor they give award to this critic story. So this critic story basically normalize what they are going to celebrate for the whole day and for a year. So I am thinking these institutions, sub institutions like AML, BML, all the one needs to celebrate this thing, this institution, these events. But we also need to be not just critical. This is not about being critical, but this is about coming very close to the reality and saying, okay, I know, like I respect these institutions, these events, all of this is fine. But at the same time, I know these events are also being happened. We are doing it. I'm not curtailing the agency. That we don't have agency. Dalits, Adivasis don't have agency. What I'm saying, they are doing this. Of course, they are doing it. They are celebrating it. They are doing it very consciously. They are creating a very good culture for this institution, for themselves, and for coming future generation. But at the same time, I am saying in the present time, what is happening? These subset events and institutions are basically normalizing the existing discourse, which is a kind of a new discourse. So now, if you want to be in any progressive institution, like go to Jindal or Ashoka, so what do? They talk about all this, how the caste is colonial anthropological invention, all of that. In sociology syllabus, everything is there. And then in the last, they give Dalit perspective. In syllabus Dalit perspective, then in the Adivasi perspective. So if these two things, if they are there, then there is no normal. So what is normal is very important to understand. So my topic basically deals with caste and contempt. And this contempt, although has a historical, one can say, evolution for that matter when it comes to Indian caste society. But on the other hand, I also try to engage with this very this concept of contempt with this new political correctness, which is evolving, not just in new institutions, but also slowly becoming the part of what we call the traditional institutions, like like for that matter, even some institution who even say that they are right wing, they are also somewhere trying to be a politically correct. And how this content is work. So I have written something. Actually, this is my book project, which is I'm working on. I hope it will come soon. But this is something which I sat and wrote down before coming here. So I'll just read it out. So yes, there exists comparatively less elaboration on the concept of contempt than other concepts which have alternatively been used to define the contempt, such as hatred, anger, disgust, so on and so forth. At times, contempt can resemble to emotion like shame or visceral response to something that strikes us as a wife. In other respect, it more closely resembles an entirely dispassionate form of regard or even numbness. The stoic who has contempt for the pain or death claims to feel no emotion in the face of these two conventional evils, precisely because he has trained himself not to think of them as evil at all. So, like this kind of sage kind of people who have no passion for a life. The way life is coming, oh, I'm accepting it, I'm going with this. So contempt, like very few in philosophy, also in Western philosophy, very few have paid attention to this very concept of contempt. Most of the people have understood it like hatred. When some people say contempt, they also think they are talking about hatred. When some people say contempt, then like we generally think, okay, it is also about some kind of the very feeling or the idea of shame. So, like we know that these sadhus, they have this Naga sadhus also. If you listen them or read about them, they say life is, there is like nothing in the life. So therefore, like they don't have this idea to preserve body, okay, or to basically conserve something. So there is this contempt for the very idea of death and life. In common everyday life, we have this very conscious approach toward death and the life, and therefore we have a defined concept of leading or living our everyday life. But for someone like Stoic or this sadhu or the sage, they have this contempt for the life. Okay, and therefore, if you have contempt for life, then you have numbness. You are completely, silent about the reality which is happening, because like this thing, ek din to marna hai, like that. So abhi kya, why to do things like that. So traditionally in the Western philosophy, contempt was not perceived as a part of passion. So it's not a part of passion. So for traditionally philosophers in Western society, they did not understand it through the lens of passion, that it is a passion, like a will, like power, like the lust. It's not like that. It's just simply there. Contempt is kind of a numbness. It doesn't say much. While philosophers have recently taken an interest in the contempt, and they have preferred to categorize it as a moral attitude. So now, when philosophers have, let's say 20th century, when they started understanding the very concept of contempt, then they started to categorize it as a moral attitude. Contempt means if I have some contempt for something, just because I also have certain moral attitude and someone else also has a moral attitude. So now it is about the moralizing or a part of a morality. So some psychologists taking the opposite track have concluded that contempt belongs on the list of the so-called basic emotion. So now we know who have studied psychology. They know that the psychologists argue that the emotions are also like kind of the basic. This is there. It's kind of it's not something that you learn emotion from outside, but emotions are there. You only learn how to express them. So therefore, psychologists have recently started understanding contempt as something, as an emotion which is there inside you. To support their case, they have even tried to identify facial expression for contempt that cut across cultural differences. So now psychologists say, okay, if you have a hatred, your cheekbone will go like this, your hand will move like this. So they have these physical, actions to explain you how particular emotion works. Similarly, they try to argue that contempt also has a certain kind of physical action through which you can understand. Like in anger, you throw something, or someone sweats, or someone do some physical activity, you understand, oh, he is angry, or she is angry. Similarly, they are trying to say these are particular physical action through which you can say this particular person having or expressing contempt or contemptuous about other being. So yes, this is kind of presently this is how psychology, some philosophers are trying to deal with the very concept of contempt. But before these philosophers and psychologists, it was René Descartes, who with his publication of Passion of Soul reconceptualized original, this concept of a concept. So he kind of taking contempt from the very idea of, where he is differentiating how contempt is not a hatred, and he is reconceptualizing this very idea of contempt. So what he says, Descartes says, to feel contempt for something was to feel wonder at its smallness, just as to respect something was to wonder at its grandeur. So for instance, the way you appreciate something as a big, as a huge, as a beautiful. Similarly, contempt works in a reverse. So then if I have a contempt for you, I have a contempt for a particular object, I will reduce that object in such a smallest way, in such a way that it will, like it will reach at its very smallest position. Like in a very, what I can say, in a very obscene manner, in a very vulgar and a bad manner. Right? So similarly, when upper caste, when they go, for instance, when they talk about Adivasis, traditional. So there is this Saint Augustine. So my work is on Vidarbha. So if you read this historian, okay, can you hear me? Okay, my voice is coming, right? Yes. I thought you might have been also. Okay, so there is this. If you read these monographs or like this classical, those who have studied ancient Indian history. So when I was basically trying to read this ancient history of Vidarbha region, this central Indian region, where the Adivasi, the gold kingdom was there. So this Agastya, although now the this King Agastya has become the kind of again the fashion name. Like these Bollywood people, they keep their surname Agastya and all of that. It's a new thing. But Agastya was a Brahmin saint who is coming from North India. And when he is depicting this gold kingdom or gold Adivasi, who already had a very well-established system, to basically defeat them, to say why you should defeat them. The word he expressed about these Adivasis are very brutal. Like how they eat this animal and like what presently in present time any anthropologist can imagine how the colonial anthropologists describe the nomadic tribe to whom they call criminal tribe in worst way. Agastya is basically talking about this Brahmin saint talking about gold kingdom. So what I'm trying to say, and on the other hand, when he is giving the logic that why this Adivasi kingdom should be destroyed, he's basically praising this Aryan kind of kingdom. Okay? And he's praising this Devta rule, the rule of a god. So this is very classical case where on the one, how contempt works. On the one hand, if I have to, praise someone, I will use the words or the language or the expression which are like how the poet do, like we said, like how poet does. Like they talk about a simple thing in the life, like like this romantic poet. They generally talk about their love as a moon, something big, which is something beyond everyday reality. But when it comes to contempt, it reduces you at the very basic level, in very smallest way. So Descartes says the same thing. He says that contempt works this. Either like it is kind of opposite to the celebration or what you can say, the beautification of something. It works against or opposite. So Descartes preferred means of and he says that the contempt regulates, through the self-esteem. So it's not just the contempt is to basically say that okay, I have a contempt. No, the contempt helps you to have a self-esteem. I'll further little talk about why I'm saying this self-esteem. And this has something to do with what Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, when he spoke about this psychological behavior of a caste, or let's say he refers some social psychologists to understand caste. Okay, so Descartes' preferred means of regulating contempt was through the cultivation of legitimate form of self-esteem. Something very important to understand the origin and the social use of contempt among Brahmin Savarna, which I will try to elaborate in next session. So, as Descartes says, there is this legitimate way of doing it. You can simply have a contempt for someone. There should be some process, some legitimate form of doing it. You cannot simply come and say, "Oh, I hate you." No, sorry, or like you just say, you cannot come. You cannot simply ignore your classmate. You need to have this cognitive mental mechanism. If I don't like this particular person, I don't want to talk with him. I just simply want to ignore him. I cannot simply do that. I need to have a particular mental mechanism to do that. Right? If this is how the untouchability works, this invisibility means I cannot simply practice untouchability just saying, oh, you are untouchable. No, there need to be even the mental mechanism. And what Baba Sahib says, this mental mechanism or is not simply a mental mechanism, but it is a social kind of mental. So contempt does not just produce in the mind, it produces from the society which is based on the hierarchy and specifically the caste society. So what data says that you need to have certain kind of this mental mechanism and why this is so. Now the question is why contempt? Why one needs to have a contempt or other? Okay, and that's what I'm saying. Moreover, to define contempt independently, it is important to separate this concept of hatred, anger from contempt. Now here, Arthur Schopenhauer is very important philosopher to understand contempt. And what in his counsels and the magazine he wrote, true genuine contempt, which is the obverse of true. Genuine pride stays hidden away in secret and lets no one suspects its existence. For if you let a person you despise notice the fact, you thereby reveal a certain respect for him. In as much as you want him to know how low you rate him, which betrays not contempt but hatred, which excludes contempt and only affects it. Therefore, genuine contempt, on the other hand, is the unsoiled conviction of worthlessness of another. So, what is he trying to say? He's trying to say is this. He establishes how hatred and contempt are not synonymous. Contempt is an emotional manifestation of person's devaluation into nothingness. It marks a judgment of a person being beyond consideration and unworthy of respect, even such respect as to be despised. So now, if I hate someone, what do? In the hatred, if you hate someone, you always have that particular person, community, or the object is there in your mind. You do not you do not perform the act of denial. If, for instance, now you see this everyday right-wing hatred towards the minority, you can just simply open the social media or see there is this continuously hatred. This Muslim minority is always there in their mind. They always talk about this. Now Kannada English is happening with Ajan. So they are always part there. There is no denial. They basically recognize. They rather go with this mystical, anthropological lens, looking at what is happening there. They just see, oh, this is happening. Oh, they do like this, really bad. Bring it. Oh, minorities are like that. Or even they do something similar with Dalits also. Like when it comes to this reservation, oh, you look at this guy, he's traveling in aeroplane, and this Dalit talk about reservation. So now this is there. So if the hatred works like this, hatred always recognize you. If I hate you, I recognize you. But in contempt, not necessary. If I have a contempt for you, not necessarily I will express my recognition for you. And therefore, this very concept of suicide, which generally, there are many reasons for this suicide. But when I see Dalits towards suicide, I do not just simply see through the lens of this physical violence always. No, not necessarily there needs to be physical violence. As I said, to keep this everyday normality, there is a lot of violence which goes in. Okay, to have this so-called normality, in gender discourse, many feminists have spoken about this. Like, for instance, there is this very concept of desired body. So now, if you want to be appreciated, you need to have a particular body structure. If you don't have it, I have not told you that you are bad or you are not good looking. It's already defined, and you work with this defined concept, right? So, who is telling you? This Miss World is telling you on the top of that heap, where she says, after doing everything, after consuming every capitalist product, being part of a ruling caste, ruling class, she comes and says, one message you want to give all the women who are outside there. She says, I want to tell them, believe in yourself. Right? So this is a mockery. She performing this every act which is being desired by capitalist economy, and then finally she comes and tells you, believe in yourself. As if all the women who are out there struggling for their everyday survival do not believe in themselves. They are punished for not believing in themselves. And this woman who has won this Miss World title is the only successful woman who believes in herself. Right? So this is how it works. So what I was basically trying to say, contempt and hatred is different. Now, what I argue, this woman or this man who is telling us, believe in yourself is a successful mantra. I think that is a contempt. That is also part of a contempt. What is contempt? Because when that woman wins, when she wins this award of, this Miss India or Miss whatever, nonsense, she is basically telling all these people who do not have a body like me, the desired body, are part of a contempt. They should be contemptuous, kind of, human bodies, because you don't celebrate them. You don't celebrate them. What you celebrate this so-called performed, well, let's say, I must say, a designed body, where which body part needs to be grow less, or how your face should look and everything. Similar with the now, these other things which are growing. And yes, so contempt doesn't necessarily needs to be kind of a hatred. Hatred is simply, oh, I hate you. You are a black, I don't like you. I hate you because you are Dalit. Oh, you are Muslim, I hate you. Contempt not necessarily may work like this. It works with very unnoticed kind of facts which are there. Okay, you do not necessarily notice those facts or recognize those facts. And therefore I say that taking from Schopenhauer, as mentioned above, some psychologists may see contempt as an elementary or innate emotion. Now psychologists have this habit. Whenever they see something, they say, oh, this is something innate, already there. So if they read Schopenhauer, they may say, oh, see, Schopenhauer is saying contempt is a part of emotion, and therefore they are innate kind of emotion. I, however, argue that contempt is a socially cultivated in stratified society by ruling community to secure both the material as well as psychological superiority in response to fear of the other, therefore marginalized community in present sense. Thus, contempt in Freudian sense is a part of ruling class defense mechanism. And it is in this context, the Brahmin Savarna's contempt plays major role as a part of defense mechanism. And this very defense mechanism, as Babasaheb Ambedkar argued, they developed against the superiority and in response to the threat from Buddhism. Babasaheb, in his treatise on untouchable, who were they and why they became untouchable, thank you. He argues, and I quote him, the broken man hated the Brahmin because Brahmins were enemies of Buddhism, and the Brahmin imposed untouchability upon the broken man because they would not leave Buddhism. On this reasoning, it is possible to conclude that one of the roots of untouchability lies in the hatred and contempt, which the Brahmins created those who were Buddhist. Can the hatred between Buddhism and Brahminism be taken to the sole cause why broken man became untouchable? Obviously, it cannot be. The hatred and contempt preached by Brahmin was directed against Buddhists in general and not against the broken man in particular. Since untouchability struck to broken man only, it is obvious that there was some additional circumstances which has played its part in fostering untouchability upon the broken man. Now here what Babasaheb is trying to say, that anthropologically the concept of broken man has always been there. So if you see the Western society, even the Gail Ombit argues same in a book on Buddhism and caste. So you see across, if you read the anthropological literature, you see that the very concept of a broken man is there or out there, but Ambedkar asked, if this community kind of a broken man kind of community was there everywhere in East, in West also, why this particular phenomenon like untouchability occurred in India? And If you read even the Indian sociology, even Srinivas or even Bede for that matter, or even Louis Dumont, or you read another anthropologists, British anthropologists, Risley and other people. None of these sociologists or anthropologists try to answer this question. And whenever they attempt to answer this question, it's become kind of big. But Swami Ravasa, who is dealing with this question and asking this question, if the broken man was a reality of almost all society in the world, why this particular phenomenon like accessibility occurred in India? Why this is so? And it's sustained for such a long time. Why this is so? So he says it cannot be simply the part of a hatred. Okay, you are one community, I am one community, I have defeated you, now you are a broken kind of community, you are searching for a livelihood, and you now came to know there is this kingdom who can give us some, some kind of this, bread and butter, we will serve you, that was the idea of broken man. But we will be outside the village. We will not part of a community, we will be surplus. So whatever surplus activity has to do or produce we will do, we will not be part of your this thing because your balance will be damaged. This was the idea of broken man. Ambedkar says yes, this was there. But then why accessibility occurred here? Broken man was also there. And with the evolution of society, this broken man became the part of larger, or he got integrated into larger society. Why this remained here? He says it cannot be simply hatred for the broken man. Oh, you are defeated, therefore I hate you. No. If this is so, it would have evolved somewhere else. He says this is because of contempt. And contempt for what? Contempt for Buddhism. By whom? By Brahmins. And therefore Indian history says, if you look at this lens of looking, if you, those who have studied history, those who understand Indian ancient history, not the popular ancient history, where you always see this, Sadguru kind of phenomenon. No, Sadguru, he takes from Wikipedia and then interprets in his own way. Okay, not like Sadguru kind of guy. Read the very authentic, this anthropological literary field. Read what happened. So ancient history always comes with some taste of Buddhism. Whenever you go, whether you read Romeo Thapar or you read Mahasi or you read, even for that matter, Max Muller, whether you agree with them or don't agree with them, whether they are appreciating the Brahminism or criticizing Brahminism, you always have a reference of Buddhism. What Baba Sahib argues, that if there is ancient India, then the only ancient India was existed, it was a Buddhist period, which was destroyed vehemently and violently. Now, why this is so? Why? And therefore, he connects this very idea of untouchability, how untouchability emerged in India for the contempt of Buddhism by Brahmins. Why Brahmins? He answers in very different way, sociologically also, economically, psychologically. Now I'll go further. So Baba Sahib further argues that since Buddhism as a value system overshadowed the Brahmanism and Brahmins, so Brahmins, to regain their supremacy and to counter Buddhism, started practicing extreme value such as complete vegetarianism. Even somewhere someone told me, Savarkar quoted that Brahmins once upon a time used to eat beef. No? Ambedkar quotes Vedic literature and says that how Brahmin basically used to fight for this. I want beef leg, someone is saying I want this part, someone is. So in Yajna they say they always would sacrifice, animal sacrifice was there. And Buddhism, many people would argue that emerged and how much time? Okay, I have 40 minutes here or 40. So I consume 40 minutes. I need to sum up in 10 minutes. Okay, I'll do it. Oh, good. So, yes. So Baba Sahib further argued that, okay, So Brahmins to regain this supremacy, started countering Buddhism and practicing the new value system. Like, if you are doing this, if you have 2 numbers, I will have 4 numbers. Then only have 2 people. So when Buddhism became the part of mass religion, when Buddhism became the part of everyday life, Brahmins started feeling this threat for their position. And Brahmin never creates anything. And for that matter, if you read the Vedic literature, which Ambedkar and even Gale in her book quotes very nicely, Brahmins always have this contempt for labor. If you read even Manusmriti, if you read very closely, they always have contempt for farmers. You should not work in the land. Land is dirty. Okay, it was very bad. So therefore, Brahmins they are never engaged in the productive activities. Okay, they are always basically criticize this productive activity. And from there, if you see, when Brahmin realize, okay, now we are declining. Now our position in the society is basically getting hampered. Now what to do? And therefore, they started practicing vegetarianism, and not simply the vegetarianism. Like Buddha says, Madhyama. Buddhism, as Ambedkar says, is not about solving the philosophical question or going into extreme. Buddhism is about the middle path. So what Buddha said, I'm not saying that what kind of vegetarianism you should practice, but all I'm saying that if you can at your best or maximum, using your maximum potential, if you cannot kill something or someone and still can live with the things which are available, then you should do that. What Buddha is saying, that doesn't mean that if you're dying and if you have something, that you should not kill and eat. Therefore, for Buddha, violence and non-violence is very different, which Baba Sahib even quotes when he formed Sabda Sainik Dal. But that is another debate, I won't go into. And why? Because Ambedkar quotes Sabda Sainik Dal, violence and non-violence, because when he formed Sabda Sainik Dal, upper caste media and the politician and so-called common upper caste people, they criticize Ambedkar saying, your Sabda Sainik Dal is basically inflicting violence. And then Ambedkar quotes Buddha, the very idea of violence and non-violence, and he says there is a difference between meekness and non-violence. Okay. So I'll go into another part. So and acting out contempt makes the actor feel or actually become superior to whom or what is acted out of contempt on. So when I'm saying now, I have a contempt for you or particular person, I'm assuming a superior position. On the other hand, to have a superior position, I need to have a contempt, not simply hatred or the anger. Because anger I can have from a neighbor. He bought a car, he bought a TV. I can feel hatred and anger for it. But superiority, how to feel superior? I can only feel superior with certain kind of contempt for particular act. Oh, you see, this is something about consumption. I am a sage Brahmin. I'm like, I don't believe in consuming something. You consume, like, okay. So if I have to feel superior of myself, वो बोलते जब आपके पास what is that line, what is that, like my father used to use this, I am forgetting this, like पैसे नहीं तो अंगूर खट्टे हैं, like if you don't have money, even the grapes they are not good. Yeah. So because you have a money, you are enjoying it, I don't have it, I can feel hatred for you. But just imagine I want to have contempt for you. I want to feel superior. You have everything in the life. You are intellectually sound, you are economically sound, you are doing in your life, family, everything. But still I want to feel superior than you. I can only feel superior when I have a contempt. And therefore contempt is also some kind of moral attitude, as even Schopenhauer argued. It is in this context, the denial. And to have this contempt, to process this contempt, I need to have a denial. Denial and fear of Buddhism remain as a significant other for Gandhi. So whenever we talk about otherization, we say, oh, Hindus are otherizing Muslims. Oh, upper caste are basically otherizing lower caste or Adivasi. I say, and I argue, first otherization, if you trace historically, was Brahmin were the one who felt other. And Buddhism for them remained as always significant other, as a reference point. So because Buddhism evolved as such a high value system, when Brahmin started, Buddhism became as a part of a significant other. Oh, what is Buddhism is doing? Let me see this. So Buddhism has always been there for a Brahmin. And therefore for Brahmin to have a contempt for Buddhism, they pretended not to recognize it. Therefore denial. Okay, this denial is very important. So whenever they do something, or if someone do study or read something, how everyday Brahmins activity or their rituals, you will be amazed to see. Like in Diwali, the Brahmin women, she basically keeps this bali, and she in Maharashtra, and then she crushes the bali, small this thing, statue or sculpture. So if you see most of the practices is basically having contempt for this local kingdom or the local king for that matter. Now what basically I am trying to say in this context, the denial and the fear of Buddhism remain as a significant other for Brahmins. And acting out contempt makes the actor feel or actually become superior to whom or what is acted out contempt of. Denying is about putting the actor in a better position than reality informs. And most importantly, for Brahmins and Savarna, Buddhism remains as a big other in Lacan sense. So what Lacan says, he is a Freudian, also used the Freud psychoanalysis in reverse way. But what is interesting, Lacan says that the way Freud says there is this very concept of a self and other. Lacan says even your idea of self and other is the same, more or less same. What I am trying to say, that myself, I'm not simply myself. We all of us have something called other always there. So if I need to interact here with Birsa sir or Zahir sir, I have the very idea of other, how it functions. If I am not able to cognitively grasp this, I cannot act upon it. Right? So if I need to act with you, I need to talk with you, interact with you, just imagine how this very idea of other works. If you are going every day saying to your friend, hi, hello, hi. Suddenly you say hi and your friend doesn't reply. Means it is not nothing. But what happens? Suddenly you will give a lot of question of why you will say reply to my hi. You will get a lot of questions because yourself is being what Lacan is a part of other. Self is nothing but product of otherization. In this particular sense, I am saying that for a Brahmin, okay, it is So it is in this sense Brahmin and Savarna. For Savarna, Buddhism remains as a big other. We structured Brahmin Savarna psyche in particular way to counter Buddhism and Buddhists socially who are today's lower caste according to Babasaheb Ambedkar. Moreover, one see closely Brahmins and their everyday practices evolved in response to contempt for Buddhists. And as any sociologist and social psychologist would argue, these everyday practices of Brahmins direct and shape the cognitive processes of the community and individual in the Brahmin community and Savarna community. Further in this regard, if one sees the traditional village caste societies, invisibility, which is important part of contempt, as Schopenhauer would argue, or invisibilizing untouchable from public space, used to be and still is a rule and caste of principle. So it's not just untouchability, just simply doesn't mean, just imagine how unique it is. You are untouchable, your house should be in this particular direction. Means you do not find this arrangement anywhere in any stratified society in the world. But contempt does this. Because as I said, contempt reduces you at the smallest level. So the Brahmin went at the smallest level and thought, even Subhe ki pehli kiran, the first rays of the sun, you should not get it. Untouchability is not simply you touch me and then you. No. Untouchability functions with the contempt. It cannot be simply otherwise, if it is just a physical, if untouchability is just physical, oh, you are dirty, don't touch me, it can go away. Right? Now I am clean, you see, now I am good, like now I can touch you, but no. Untouchability still is there, not because it has a physical characteristics, but it is more about these psychological characteristics, which is a contempt. And therefore, Babasaheb says, okay, I'll basically not go into that, and then I'll go a little further because time is less. So further in this regard, if one sees that So further in this regard, if one sees the traditional village caste society, as I said, invisibility is basic untouchability, which is a part of contempt. That's what Schopenhauer said. Not about untouchability, but about contempt. However, how Brahmin Savarna carries the contempt for lower caste in so-called modern societies and institutions is very important to understand. This is about the traditional village society. You understand, you go to village, you see, oh, there is this, there is that, oh, caste is functioning well. But then how does Brahmin Savarna practice this contempt in this so-called modern institution? Like IITs, which has become a IITs are nothing but they have become a death chamber for many institutions where you see the rampant these cases of suicide from marginalized section, in the case of Payal Tadvi, or we know Rohit Vemula case, or now like in IITs and many other, like you go across, and not just the students, mind you, even faculties, not every faculty they will be committing suicide, but the faculty, the worthlessness that they feel. I have some of my friends who worked in the IIT, they taught in IIT, and now they have left the IIT. When we talk, my God, the experience that they share is horrible. So now again, so it is important to argue that how Brahmin Savarna use this contempt in this modern institution. I argue in this case, contempt as a natural and as argued above is a cognitive part of Brahmin Savarna. This contempt, which is part of the traditional psyche, come in conflict with the modern values of equality or sharing space and tolerating lower caste. Now you in village or in traditional society, I can say, this is not your way to walk, go there. But now how you do in the modern institution? You cannot do that. So now contempt comes in a conflict with the modern values and the modern principles, for that matter, in the institution. So yes, now since this clash, this let's say this contradiction is there. With what happens now, you have a contempt, you cannot practice it very openly. Now these values are there, equality, everyone can share, everyone is equal, all of this is there. Now there is a clash. Now what happens after this? Now I am seeing once the contempt come in the conflict, it takes the most ugliest form. And what is that ugliest form? So I am saying this in turn takes the most ugly as well as most subtle form, like with the myth of a merit. So Brahmins, when Britishers came to India, the first thing they told all the so-called local people that why you should not rule, or why Brahmin is not worthy to sit with us. Even they told Brahmin, because you do not have a modern idea of merit, right? So have you seen this movie called Shatranj Ke Khiladi, where this Lucknow Nawab and when they write a letter why you should not rule here, they basically try to tell him you don't have merit too, and they define what is the merit, right? But if one evaluate the Nawab's kingdom, historian argues it was more prosperous, it was doing well. Right? So in this way, I am seeing how this Brahmin Savarna, they use contempt in the modern institution, they created this very idea of a myth, which I say basically myth. Merit is a myth in this institution. And Brahmin cannot work without myth. Whether they are modern or traditional, they always need to have some particular kind of a myth. They always create myth. And so they express their contempt for Dalit and lower caste through this very concept of a myth, and merit of a myth, and most importantly, the consequences such as suicide or making other feel worthless has no direct effect on their psyche. And another difference that one can find between hatred and contempt, that as I said, now have you noticed you read the response. Whenever there is a suicide of the student, what was the first response of the institution or the committee? No, it is not about caste. First response, it is not about saying we need to reflect on this, or we need to see what is wrong going in this institution. First response of the Brahmins, I am taking suicide as an important case in this institution. First response is basically to say, it is not about caste. It is not about being Dalit or something like this. First response came. Rather, basically, to reflecting on the institution. The director of the institution is not saying that we need to reflect on it. What is wrong going in our institution? But the first response of the director comes, I'll just finish in 5 minutes. Comes as it is not about caste. Yeah, I am from JNU and you give such a less time. We speak a lot in JNU on Dhaba. We have a bad habit. Sorry, yeah? Yeah. No, I'll finish it anyway. I need to respect this normality is very important. So yes. So yes, and as I said, most importantly, the consequences such as suicide. Now this numbness work very importantly. You just remember, like all of you, and this is some ugliest example that I'm putting here, making your day really bad. Just imagine you guys as a community here, as someone dies or commit suicide. I say wrong, I'm saying, but because it happened in JNU with us. One of my friend Krish, you might know, he came in newspaper, all of that, he committed suicide. So what happens? Your normalcy get hampers. You take a seat back, you start reflecting. What went wrong, yeah? Did we not like? क्या हमने उससे सही तरीके से बात नहीं की? He was my friend. What happened with him? Did I was not there for him or her? What exactly happened? You start reflecting. There is no numbness. There is a lot of reflectivity. You are hampered from inside. You are destroyed at least for a transitory time, for a particular day or a moment. You are basically not able to be so-called normal. But what happens with the Brahmin Savarna, I argue, is a numbness. Suicide, oh, it is not about caste. But how you can say it, as Chopra would say, or even Descartes says, contempt has the very characteristics of a numbness. It does not allow you to feel that pain. And therefore, they are able to operate very smartly that there are suicide, there are discrimination, faculties are feeling worthless from lower caste background, but still you can be as normal as you can. You can only do it psychologically when you have a numbness. And I'm saying numbness, you can only have a numbness when you have a contempt. Numbness about other fellow human being or the natural reality is not possible to have unless you have a contempt. I have a contempt for nature. Nature is bad. It's dirty. It's a hatred. But if I have a contempt, nature is just there. Even if the entire forest is getting cutting down, I can't feel anything. I don't feel. I am numb. Similarly, contempt for numbness is a part of a contempt, and I am arguing that contempt is basically the part of a cognitive development of a Brahmin Savarna. So, example like this, matrimonial. Have you seen the matrimonial? If you see the matrimonial, there is this thing. Caste is no bar except SC/ST. Have you seen those matrimonial? Caste is, and this educated, they are educated upper caste Brahmins, Kannadi Brahmins, this Maharashtra Kulkarni and all of these Deshpa, whatever. Yeah, they say that with caste is no bar but except SC/ST. Now for you and for me, this may sound funny or this may sound as a clear case of contradiction, but imagine they are educated. For them it's not a contradiction. For Brahmin Savarna, it is not abnormal because it is not a part of their cognitive. For you, it is a part of the cognitive. If I say this, it sounds as a contradiction. Caste is no bar, but except SC/ST. You may say, for you, for me, it's funny. How can you say this? Because it's a contradictory. You are contradicting yourself. But for Brahmin Savarna, at such a large level, it is not a contradiction. And they are educated. They are engineer, they are software engineer, they are professor, they are this, they are that. It doesn't appear as a contradiction for them. It cannot appear as a contradiction for them because they have a contempt for lower caste. That's what basically I am trying to argue. And what even Chopra says, contempt may, see, if there is a reality, I know Birsa sir is there, he is a lower caste, or I have contempt for him. First thing I will do, basically, is basically to invisibilize him. I cannot perform a contempt for him if I don't invisibilize him mentally, if not physically. So have you seen when this flight goes to Mumbai airport, you see the slums. Whether you see left side or right side of the flight, you see slums. Now the same people who talk about we are the Mumbai, all this elite, Bandra people or wherever they stay. They talk about Mumbai, Mumbai is war, marathon, this nonsensical thing, mashal leke daudo sab saath mein. Now, what do? They cannot be in that tribe and talk good about themselves or their city unless they invisibilize these slums. So I basically, when flight comes down, I have to invisibilize this slum. Otherwise, I cannot enjoy what I am basically supposed to consume. Right? So to perform the contempt, you need to invisibilize. I I'm saying this, and as we know that the upper classes, they may say a lot of things about working class, but there this contempt has always been there. Okay. So I'm saying this matrimonial sites. I have given you an example. So being blind to reality is very important, and this is something very last. Sir. I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of time. In the last, I am not denying the human possibility that Brahmin Savarna cannot come out contempt. They can do that. The self-consciousness of contempt thought is important, which might lead to self-contempt. Right? So I am saying that the contempt is not that the Brahmin Savarna cannot come out as come out of contempt and act as a normal, good human being. They can. But this very idea of being self-reflective about contempt, that I have contempt for certain community or for some people, can lead me towards self-contempt. And this says self-contempt becomes very hazard. Why? Because self-contempt takes you beyond the normality. And in the self-contempt, and therefore I say, Dalit students who mostly commit suicide in this institution, when you understand it psychologically or even philosophically, I argue that they have been told to have self-contempt for themselves. You are not worthy to be part of it. This is self-contempt. I realize this when you see this. Someone may realize I am not part of this institution, I cannot be, I don't have merit. Then slowly you go into this negative connotation of your own self. And therefore what Nietzsche says, that this very idea of self-contempt, and I am saying in the Brahmina Prakash, if they start reflecting how they have contempt for others, it will lead to the self-contempt, and self-contempt, and Nietzsche would argue, can lead towards self-destruction. Right? But Nietzsche goes beyond. If you just go past this stage, you become kind of this very idea of Nietzsche's idea of Superman or superhuman being idea. That is another thing. But what I'm saying, self-contempt, this reflection or the consciousness of a contempt for other might lead you might lead the Brahmin Savarna for self-contempt. Now you see this, therefore what do you do? Now I don't want to go toward a self-destruction path. Therefore I need to have something to say. I recognize my mistake. I recognize that I'm a privilege, I'm this, I'm that. But then what to do with this? I don't want to go toward the idea of self-contempt. I don't want to have self-contempt. Then how do I function? You can only function saying all of these things. I have a privilege. Nowadays it happens for this hero, everyone comes. Oh, I understand I'm privileged. Oh, I'm upper caste. Oh, I understand I'm privileged. Nothing. Like you said, Karina Kapoor saying, coming on a nonsensical show, and she go, I am privileged, I know. My maid is not privileged. What happened? After that, her maid is not a rich and she is not a poor. The thing is still, the reality is there out reality. But saying this is very important. How do you not go toward the very idea of self-contempt in this society, in this modern places? So how do you not go? By producing a guilt. So guilt is very important. Guilt in our present time is very important. So when I say, oh, I'm a man, I'm a privileged, then the female who are here, I can only function normally in your institution. I can be good with you only when I say this. I'm a man, I'm a privileged, you are a woman, you are not privileged. Now, if I simply reflect on it, it might lead towards self-contempt. I don't want to do that. I need to have guilt. Oh, I'm a man, I'm so guilty for what is happening wrong with me. This guilt is very important. And therefore I say, like Gandhi's various acts against untouchability is example of which then became the part of political correctness. That time when Baba Sahib was there, what did Gandhi do? So Gandhi said, oh, everything is, oh, I'm so guilty about it. Oh, caste is not good. Means caste is good, but untouchability is not good. All of that he said. And then he said, oh, now you clean your own shit. Okay, that is how we will perform now. How we are pro lower caste and all of that. That's what Gandhi did. This very idea of, like this seva, which Ambedkar criticized very vehemently. So now this is the last paragraph I am reading out. So in our time, this new liberal society, we can, this new political correctness. I am arguing this new political correctness works as a commodity. So when you go to mall, what happens? When you go to mall nowadays, you consume something. Now means most of you may be coming from not with that privileged background. I stayed in JNU. JNU ke two malls. There are two big malls. A very big, huge mall where all these Delhi people people comes, these big rich people come. What happens? If you buy, now what happens? I'm consuming. Oh, I have a lot of money consuming. I cannot simply consume. Means if I do that, I only simply consume. Someday or other it will reflect on me and I will go into self-contempt. What do I need? I need a guilt. What is that? Bhaiya, mujhe wo, don't give me this polythene bag. Are you mad about? Give me this cotton bag or this, what is it? A paper bag. Okay? I want to save a nature. Oh, there is this save the children box. Let me put some money. Right? Means you cannot consume without guilt. I need, now I am fine. Now now I am very good consumer. Why? Because I give some money to save the children and to save the climate. Now nothing helps. Like I contributed to that climate change wala box or the save the children wala do whatever. They are not doing for other. I am saying they are doing because you cannot consume without guilt. In capitalist society, this new liberal market economy, you cannot simply consume. To consume, you need to have a guilt, right? So guilt is very important in the consumption. Similarly, in this political correctness of this new institution, where you talk about Dalits, Adivasi privilege and all of this and that, let's cite this autobiography and all of that Dalit autobiography. I'm seeing this upper caste in this new political correctness, how contempt basically function. So unlike other system and times, capitalism in our time operates on two extreme axes. On the one hand, it offers immense possibility of consuming material goods and services, which is innately ingrained in some mystical experiences. Okay, like this American kind of Buddhism, they consume lot and suddenly they realize this Sadguru and Buddhism, or do meditation, go to Nirvana, or like all bhole, just smoke some weed and everything. So this is how it functions. Okay. So on the one hand, it offers immense possibilities of consuming material goods and services, which is innately ingrained in some mystical experiences. On the other hand, it also opens the door of self-discovery, meditation, ultimate spirituality, nirvana, so on and so on. However, what makes it all the more special is the feeling of guilt. You can't consume, as I said, without guilt. And that guilt ultimately feeds into authentic subjectivity in the consumer. Now I am a good consumer because I have donated some money. The absence of a guilt in the consumption can lead a person to self-contempt, which is one of the strongest negative emotions to live, as Nietzsche argued. Or it can also take you beyond the normality. Isn't political correctness the same? This political correctness that we have here. Who consumes this political correctness? Besides, who needs it? The smooth daily functioning of upper caste Brahmin psychological cycle needs this political correctness. This new institution. And to satisfy the guilt, you need the authentic subject, the true victim. Political correctness not only creates an authentic subject, but it also opens this spiritual space. Then you can go from one place to another. So what I'm saying now is, earlier what used to happen, when these modern institutions were not there, what used to happen? So only Brahmins are sitting there or the upper caste and talking about something. Now what happens? So there is the Jaipur festival. Call some Dalit, na? Call some transgender, na? Call some this, na? What happens? Because this is how the political correctness looks like. Now, like it happens with me many times. I heard you come from slum, you are Dalit. Dalits in the slum must be good people, na? Very honest people. I said, no. Like, where are you living? Like, they also drink, they beat their wife, they do everything. There is this lens, they are indigenous people. Don't call them Adivasi, call them indigenous people. This has become a new language of political correctness. I understand, I am upper caste, you are Dalit, I recognize my privilege. It doesn't lead us anywhere. But why this is happening? Why? I'm saying basically, this is a guilt. And in these modern institutions and this so-called evolving society, where what happens in America with the black, even the Virat Kohli, basically writes about it. Black lives matter. They wear this band and all of that. Black lives matter. Why? These people, they are consumerists. This Virat Kohli, everyone, all of these people, they don't bother about what is happening in the world. But they have to perform this political correctness because otherwise they are not good. They are not good. Not for others, but for themselves. They are not able to live their daily functioning. And therefore, for upper caste Brahmin in this so-called modern institution, this political correctness is very important. I am saying this Dalit experiences. Oh, tell your experiences. Oh, how poor you were. Oh, how you face it. Oh, you are Dalit woman. Please tell me. Oh, how you feel about it and all of that. I am saying this works for upper class as a political correctness, right? And after this, once you talk about this political correctness, you do or you recognize your privilege, nothing happens. So what I am arguing, this English Dalit autobiographies and Dalit criticism of upper class in liberal public forum creates an authentic experience of guilt, which is crucial for a liberal upper class to consume political correctness. And as I mentioned above, it helps them to avoid self-contempt. To avoid self-contempt, political correctness is very important in this new modern institution. Thank you very much for your time and for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful and valuable words. Now the floor is open for audience. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to do so.
First of all, thank you, sir, for your wonderful words. Sir, my question is that this content has always been there in the, like the history says that there is content in the, I mean, the content is an integral part of the society in every space of life. So my question is that, what if we get rid of the social content? Will that get rid of the content in the other space of the life as well? Because there is content there is content between rich and poor. There is also content between, for example, we are working in a development sector. So while going to do the field work, sir has repeatedly told us that we are not actually going to teach them. In fact, we are going to learn from them. So we are working in a development sector. Is this kind of feeling is also a part of content?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is maybe not directly part of it, but let's say it's a product of it. For instance, as I said, if present time, if you want to understand this ruling class contempt, or ruling in India, ruling class contempt for the lower caste or lower class and working class masses, Bhujan, what basically happens? You know, these are the subset realities. For instance, let's say this argument comes, as I said, the political correctness, plays the role of a guilt. It's a commodity. As I said, when you consume something in the mall, you need to have a guilt. You cannot simply consume. You also consume with the guilt. So you put some 5 rupees or 10 rupees or 100,000 rupees to that box of save the climate and save the nature. Right? Similarly, here in the development sector also, when you talk about these marginalized communities, you cannot simply say, oh, finish them. No. You say, okay, now what we are going to do? We are going to develop a local form of knowledge system, which should include tribes, and they will have their own local economy. We will preserve that, and the other land which is there, that government will take and give to some corporate. To justify that thing, something has to happen. Something normal has to happen. So let's say, therefore, I'm saying more than directly contempt, we can see this through the lens of political correctness. So then this is also, I do not believe this very idea when you say, oh, go to the communities, learn from them. I do not, this is again this ruling class, upper class idea of understanding. On the other hand, they say, oh, this is the Western view to understand, oh, you only think here and what is happening there is you do not know. What I'm trying to say here is, basically, let's say when you talk about Adivasis for that matter, development and Adivasis, the core argument that generally we give is this. Oh, Adivasi wants to preserve the nature, you want to destroy the nature. I'm like, no, it's not like that. I'm saying because Adivasi simply does not want to preserve the nature. They also want to have their own life. Now in the present time, for instance, don't Adivasi want to become an IS officer? Don't they want to live a good life? But this is a well-defined notion that they only want to preserve the nature. And let's celebrate the Adivasi through this way. But this is not how exactly it functions. But but now if I don't say this, oh, like Jal Jangal Jameen, when it comes to Adivasi, I have to talk about Jal Jangal Jameen. If I don't talk about it, then I'm not a good person. I'm not someone who can be part of this new awakening or the social group, right? So I'm saying this may not be directly part of content, but I'm saying this new political correctness, which is basically the production of upper caste and the ruling classes. Political correctness is nothing but what happened. These white American liberals, to whom Malcolm X criticized very vehemently, right? So it is a product of them. They have a guilt, and with this guilt, they have created this new political correctness. But it doesn't help in actual sense.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is, you discussed this concept of content in case of upper castes. So do you
Mostly Brahmins.
Mostly Brahmins. So do you think it has percolated, like the caste logic has percolated in other castes?
See, as I said, like for instance, when there is, again, when it comes to caste, we have to discuss very ugly kind of form of reality. So now most of us are from Maharashtra here, maybe I don't know, I'm wrong. This is, okay, sorry. Yeah. So if you go to this is Marathwada also known for atrocities on the hills, right? So, when you study these atrocity cases as a student, as a social scientist or a scholar, what happens? You see this dominant caste who would be considered as a Shudra, other could be for that matter. And OBCs also. They have a hatred, I must say. Oh, like what nature of atrocities, like in Kerala, Dalit family doing well, ladki ne gold medal le liya, ladka bhi acha kar raha hai, doing well. How can they do this? As I said, I have a hatred for my neighbor. Oh, he bought a car. How can he buy this? Right? Similarly, with the caste atrocities, they have this hatred. How dare you to allow walk on the street? How dare you basically even thought about my girl? I will kill you. These are the nature of atrocities. I'm saying Brahmin may not do directly this. Right? Brahmin in this modern institution mostly was captured by the Brahmin. If you see the numbers, IITs, even TISS for that matter, and other institutions mostly is dominated by the Brahmins. So Brahmins may not directly go into violence here. This Shudra or so-called Thakur in UP, they will express the hatred coming out of the hatred and insecurity. Brahmin may not show that. But I'm saying contempt not necessarily involves the physical violence. Contempt involves what I said, the invisibility, the denial. So when there was a Mandal Commission, it was not the OBCs or the other Shudra castes who were protesting, the Brahmin protesting against the Mandal reservation. The core argument they gave is basically maybe. Right? But if you check anthropologically or number, you see that the most of the Indian rich people, they even do not believe in the Brahmin doctors or engineers. Most of the bridges collapse and economy and all of that. Most of these rich people, they go for surgery in America and elsewhere, right? For medical system. So the merit is very contested there. What I'm trying to argue here, caste has definitely percolated. Caste is a part of life. Caste has become also the part of the so-called local form of religious or ethnic communities. Even some tribe also become the part of a caste system. But what I'm trying to say here, caste has a hatred, and Ambedkar says caste is basically, it's about reverence and the contempt. So for upper caste you have a reverence, and for lower caste you have a contempt. Now here, therefore, those who claim themselves this middle caste, if I have to perform atrocity on Dalit, what the basic thing I have to do? First I have to, or if I have to prove myself I am Kshatriya, first thing I have to do basically to perform the violence. I am not Kshatriya without performing the violence. And to perform the violence, I need someone who is below me, who are below Dalit. Therefore, whichever caste who claim they are Kshatriyas, they always use the violence against them. So whether it's a Kamma or whether it's a Thakur or Bhumiyar, Marathas, all of that. Whichever caste has to say that we are Kshatriya, they have to perform the physical violence on Dalit. But with the Brahmins, to prove that they are Brahmin, what do they do?
Can I just add a rejoinder?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, your
No, I'm asking this question. If I am a Kshatriya, if I have to prove myself Kshatriya, I perform some kind of violence on Dalits or the lower. Tell me how do I prove myself Brahmins? Social. I'm saying I'm performing contempt for lower caste. The deny, the invisibilizing, their presence in the so-called community. If I do not perform contempt, I am not a Brahmin. That is what my answer is.
Yeah, just a quick rejoinder. I take your point, and I think it actually opens up very rich way. In a way, the research can be done at the local level, because in Marathwada villages, what I have found is that due to atrocities, even for OBCs, it is not easy to actually perform violent act against SCs. And so probably if we use this concept of contempt and actually study how people feel when they interact across castes, that might really throw light on.
Might be, yeah, it's very interesting. Like if they are not able to perform physical violence, they may take contempt as a form of practicing caste. Of course, yeah. But this is not a case. Maybe in Marathwada somewhere, but they somehow or other perform violence. Not maybe directly, necessarily physical violence, but say, you are Dalit Sarpanch, but you want this water pipeline, Dalit area, हम नहीं कर रहे, देंगे, we'll bring a no coordination motion. Then bring some other Dalit, उसको निकालो, इसके रखो. Like, this is how it happens.
Yeah, I mean, in case of Brahmins, I perfectly agree with you. I'm not saying that it is not with, Brahmin caste that they don't have contempt. They have contempt, but only just this thing of even before they commit the act of violence against Dalits, there might be a process, and that process also probably involves more such forms of minor aggression, which you cannot capture through direct act of violence. So probably that would be.
The majority of caste that in that particular village, and the accumulation of the land and property. So wherever you find that, if you are talking about OBC, they perform their act, against the this. So maybe that particular village in Marathwada, having a dominating caste. Some villages you find Maratha is a dominating caste, but in some villages you find OBC like Dhankars, they are the dominating caste. So you will find that that caste will perform the atrocities against the list. So it is basically, I found in my research that it is basically against the land, the property, this thing is played very important role in this case. So where you study, which particular village you study, that is important.
This is what he says, this non-mortality of contempt. I am saying, for instance, you see this idea of poor Brahmin. This very idea of poor Brahmin, like you can be anything. Data says that the majority of poor come from Dalit, Adivasis and the OBCs community, right? But this very idea of poor Brahmin is the most popular concept when it comes to Indian power. Like this Sudama, therefore down there is this entire discourse of the poor Brahmin has created a new reservation for them. Without going against the state is offering them reservation. I am saying how this happens. And like he said, for this middle caste or for so-called Kshatriya caste, is always a constant basically contestation to prove themselves as a Kshatriya. So materially, they have to gain something, they have to perform violence, all of that, they have to control their woman. With Brahmin, I am saying, even of not doing this thing, not performing violence, even of not accumulating wealth for that matter, they perform this superiority. How do they do that? To prove myself I am superior to someone, I have to have a contemptuous feeling for you. Then only I can have a superior feeling for myself. It does not simply I can be superior. No. I cannot prove myself superior unless I have a contemptuous feeling for you. And to have a feeling for you, I have an internal narration. Okay. I like for instance here in Maharashtra. Like you see, there is this interesting case in Pune. The Brahmin women hired a cook, and the cook claimed, kind of said initially that she was a Brahmin, according to this Brahmin woman. But later she came to know she's not Brahmin, but she's a Maratha. So she filed a case against this Maratha woman that she fooled me, saying that she, she's a Brahmin, but she was a Maratha woman. So police registered a case also. But when it became a news, the Maratha, this warrior became furious. Okay, how they know internally that the Brahmin have this contemptuous feeling for us. They don't want to show it. But anyways, so I'm saying this. How does it function? Now, majoritarily, politically, you say they are there in the power, all of this. Still, Brahmin, being a Brahmin, living in the majority around the Maratha majority or the OBC majority, is basically able to perform this contempt for even the Maratha more than that. I'm saying, therefore, it cut across the gender, like in the sense of whether they're poor Brahmin or the rich Brahmin or the poor Brahmin woman or the rich corporate Brahmin woman. I'm saying contempt is part of their everyday life. Without contempt, they cannot function. For their being a normal, contempt is very important. And more than anything, maybe some people may not agree with me. I am saying that the contempt is a part of cognitive development of a Brahmin Savarna. It has to be there. Thank you.
Hello, sir. So I have a bit of a two-parter question. One, the political correctness that you mentioned, right? And like putting Dalit and Adivasi people on this pedestal while at the same time patronizing them, they can do no wrong and we must, treat them with the appropriate terms and all that. Do you think that comes from a place of dehumanization? As in, you're not looking at them as people, which you're looking at them as like a political category or any kind of an identity category, while not recognizing their lived reality and them as people. And second, when we want to move away from political correctness and move away from Savarna guilt, because you said it's not productive, then what kind of space should they occupy in this discourse and this conversation then?
What Savarna,
Yes.
what this?
If not this Savarna guilt, because it is not productive and it only really, it's just for their ego appeasement, then what space do they occupy otherwise in a constructive way?
No, rather, I basically here, want to become very close to Marx for that matter. This is not me who is telling what this our other. I'm telling what this question. They ask Malcolm X, oh, I'm a white woman. I love your work. I want to part of your movement. So Malcolm X says, how can I be part of your movement? Malcolm X, how can I contribute to your movement? So he replies to this white woman, says, by not contributing anything. So this may be my answer, but I don't want to answer in a similar way. What I want to say that I say this is not about both of us are from different castes or the class also now we have a fight and he is now politically correct. I have told him how to behave and all of that. Now हमने गले लग गए, fight is over. This is not how it is. Like मैं गले लग गया तो fight खत्म. दोस्त दुश्मन अगर दोस्त बन गया तो लड़ाई खत्म. But this is not how the war. I am saying caste the war. And Ambedkar says that the lower caste also became lower caste because of Buddhism, right? So he says that the history of India is nothing but the conflict between the Buddhism and Brahmin. Now this culmination of Indian history is very important and new point to understand. I am saying like this, saying caste is not behavioral. For that matter, class is not simply behavioral problem. It has a behavior. It definitely has a behavior. It has a cognitive process. But I am saying it's not a behavioral problem. If it is a behavioral problem, then all of us need a therapist, not a revolution. So I am saying that it is a conflict, and conflict has to be, if it can only be aimed with the war, and the war may be social, political, psychological, whatever. But I am saying caste is a war. It's not simply the behavioral problem. If it would have been a behavioral problem, Ambedkar would have approached only social psychologists to tell him how to eradicate caste. But when he talks about the annihilation of caste, he sees the caste through the very idea of monopoly. He uses the word caste basically allows upper caste to have a monopoly on the resources. And if it is a monopoly on the resources, then it has to be contested, it has to be fought, and at the like a war. Because I don't have an answer how upper caste should contribute in this. I may say they should decide how they want to contribute. For us, it's a war, and for me, like this caste hegemony is kind of a war. It has to be defeated with all the means. Yeah, maybe I don't know if I have answered the question. You want to ask something else?
What I want to say, suppose there was a case, atrocities case, that is boy was killed in Ahmednagar district. Okay, so Dalit boy was killed. It was just love affair of boy and girl, upper caste girl and Dalit boy. Now, the progressive, suppose the Maratha progressive movement, they all the way they are saying that they are progressive. But then why they come out when such things happen that they say it's a caste issue for them. They support the boy, the girl. Why they don't support the boy? It is just normal, love affair, or they love each other. So it is for them. It is supporting to them. Whether it is normal, they say that it is to us to show support the girl. It's not a normal thing. It's not normal thing. It's a I mean, they come out with their contempt that many years they forgot it. Okay, they are trying to say that we have forgotten caste. We don't have those things in mind. But such cases when that happens, that suddenly it comes out. Suddenly it comes out and they support this kind of. So why they don't take the side of the boy? That okay. I mean, it is because it is a Dalit boy, he was killed, and they are not supporting the boy because he is a lower caste. And how can a lower caste have the dare to love the upper caste girl? So this is what the dynamics takes place. When whole things. People. I find when Kalpana was talking about. The Marathas are trying to imitate like Brahmins to show contempt. This is what I say. They are feeling because this kind of cases comes. It comes out because they have to express. They want to face. This is what happens in. Thank you.
We can have a discussion on the topic, but all that I want to say on the very question that how upper caste can contribute. I really don't have answer for it. Because I treat this caste, not as a behavioral problem. I see this as a problem of, some individual may good. That's what happened in Baba Sahib's movement. There were some individual Brahmins who contributed in that movement. Right? I'm not saying the individual cannot be good. Right? Even coming from upper caste or Brahmins. But this is not about the individual. This is about the system. And system has to be annihilated with the sustained, let's say, the movement. And therefore, I really don't have an answer for that.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, so we'll take a break here. Due to the time constraints, we have to shift the next lecture post-lunch. So we'll meet at 2:15 after the lunch. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's a very informative, and my thing is that my lovely friends, next lecture is very wonderful. So you please join these sessions because next session is educational dignity of tribal students. So please join. Exact 2:15. Please. Thank you.
I'm really sorry for taking this much time. Really sorry.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.